Every single day, massive ships travel across the deep blue ocean water safely. They carry thousands of heavy metal boxes filled with everything we use daily, from our daily clothes and shoes to our televisions and modern computer parts. If you look closely at these giant cargo ships from a safe distance, you will notice something very specific about the heavy boxes on the deck. Every single cargo container in the entire world is shaped exactly the same. They are all perfectly square or rectangular boxes with straight, sharp, hard edges. You will never see a round, circular, or completely oval shipping cargo container. But why exactly is this the case when you stop and think deeply? In nature and modern engineering, round shapes are often considered stronger and better. Fast airplanes are round to easily cut through the invisible air up high. Deep submarines are completely round to survive the crushing pressure of the ocean. Even the heavy metal pipes carrying our water and gas are perfect circles. Round shapes are naturally smooth and distribute heavy pressure very evenly around themselves. So why do we put all our valuable cargo into boring, square boxes? Today, we are going to look closely at the hidden logic behind this. Just like the thumbnail image says clearly, there is a brilliant, hidden logic. We will explore exactly why the simple square container completely changed the world. We will look back at history to see how humans used to ship things. We will discover the massive physical problems with round shapes like wooden barrels. And we will learn the beautiful, perfect mathematics behind straight lines and corners. To truly understand the square box, we have to travel back in time. We must look at how the world worked before the year 1956. Before this specific year, the global shipping industry was a complete, messy disaster. Imagine a massive, busy port city in the early 1900s with ships. Workers had to load thousands of different items onto a large wooden ship. Nothing was uniform and everything came in completely different shapes and weird sizes. People shipped heavy wine in round wooden barrels that rolled around the docks. They shipped soft cotton in large, lumpy bags that were hard to stack. They shipped heavy machine parts in awkward wooden crates of all different sizes. This old method of moving things was called break bulk cargo shipping globally. It meant that every single item had to be moved individually by hand. Strong men called stevedores spent weeks manually carrying boxes onto the parked ships. It was incredibly slow, extremely dangerous, and cost a massive amount of money. A ship might spend 3 weeks just sitting in the port being loaded, and it would only spend a few days actually sailing across the ocean. Because everything was a different shape, packing the ship was like a puzzle. The workers had to guess how to fit round barrels next to squares. If they guessed wrong, the heavy cargo would shift and break during storms. Round wooden barrels were actually very popular back then for a good reason. A single worker could easily tip a heavy barrel and roll it along. You did not need a heavy machine to move a round barrel around. But rolling barrels was only helpful when you were on the flat ground. Once the round barrels were inside the ship, they became a huge problem. Round objects are absolutely terrible when you try to stack them together tightly. Imagine taking a large box and filling it with perfectly round tennis balls. No matter how hard you push the balls together, there is empty space. There are always empty, triangular gaps of air trapped between the round balls. In the logistics business, this empty air is called wasted interstitial void space. When you are shipping things, empty space means you are losing real money. You are paying to transport invisible air instead of valuable paying cargo items. If a ship was filled entirely with round barrels, 20% was air. That means 20% of the ship's earning power was completely thrown away. The world desperately needed a much better, faster, and tighter way to pack. The grand solution came from an American truck driver named Malcolm McLean, finally. He was sitting in his truck at a port, waiting for hours completely. He watched the workers slowly carry small boxes from his truck to the ship. He suddenly realized how completely stupid and wasteful this old system actually was. He thought, why are we emptying the truck to fill the large ship? Why do we not just take the entire back of the truck and load it? That simple, powerful thought was the absolute birth of the modern shipping container. McLean designed a heavy steel box that could be taken off a truck. It could be lifted by a crane and dropped directly onto a ship. When he created this new box, he chose a strict rectangular square shape. He did not choose a round cylinder, even though cylinders are physically stronger. The square shape was chosen for one supreme reason: maximum stacking space efficiency. A square or rectangular box has straight lines and hard 90-degree corner angles. When you place two square boxes right next to each other, touching closely, they sit perfectly flush against each other with zero wasted air between them. If you fill a massive ship with thousands of perfectly rectangular metal boxes, you are using 99% of the available space for actual paying cargo. There are no empty triangular gaps of invisible air wasting your valuable money. But it is not just about the space sitting side by side horizontally. The real magic of the square container happens when you look up vertically. Square containers are designed to be stacked directly on top of each other. If you try to stack round cylinders on top of each other high, they will easily roll off each other and completely collapse onto the ground. You would need heavy ropes and straps to keep round containers from rolling. Square boxes do not roll at all, even during a bad ocean storm. They sit perfectly flat and stable on top of the box below them. But the engineers added a brilliant invention to the corners of these boxes. At all 8 corners of every shipping container, there are thick steel blocks. These special steel blocks are officially called heavy corner castings by the engineers. They have oval holes cut into them, looking like a giant metal puzzle. When a crane places one square container on top of another square container, workers insert a special twisting metal lock between the two heavy corner castings. This metal lock turns and grabs both boxes tightly, locking them together safely. Because the containers are perfectly square, the heavy weight pushes straight down evenly. The heavy weight transfers directly through the strong, reinforced steel corners, perfectly straight. It flows like an invisible pillar of gravity directly down to the ground. This straight downward force is extremely important for keeping the metal boxes safe. The flat walls of a shipping container are actually quite thin and weak. If you put heavy weight directly on the middle of the roof, it bends, but the square corners are incredibly thick and can hold a massive weight. A single container can have 8 other fully loaded containers stacked above it. That means the bottom corners are holding up hundreds of tons of weight. If the container were round, the weight distribution would be totally different. Round objects distribute internal pressure very well, like air inside an airplane cabin. But they do not handle heavy external stacking pressure well at all safely. A round container would get crushed flat if you stacked heavy things above. The straight vertical corners of a square act exactly like strong building columns. They carry the heavy burden straight down to the steel deck of the ship. This perfect stacking ability allows massive modern cargo ships to be built taller. Today, ships can carry more than 20,000 standard rectangular boxes at once. They look like giant floating walls of colorful building bricks on the water. None of this massive global scale would be possible with round cargo boxes, but the true logic of the square container goes far beyond just the ship. The entire world is built around the straight lines of this metal box. Think about what happens when the massive cargo ship finally reaches the port. Giant, towering metal cranes reach down to lift the containers off the deck. These massive cranes are programmed to grab a perfectly rectangular shape every time. A round, circular shape would be extremely hard for a square crane to grab. It would slip and spin wildly in the air, creating a very dangerous situation. The square shape gives the crane straight, flat edges to hold onto tightly. Once the tall crane lifts the heavy container, it places it gently onto a truck. Look at the back of any large transport truck driving on the local highway. The back trailer bed of a truck is a perfectly flat, straight metal rectangle. If you dropped a round, circular container onto a flat truck bed quickly, It would immediately try to roll off the side when the truck simply turned. The poor driver would have to use dozens of heavy chains to secure it. A square container safely drops onto the flat truck bed and sits perfectly still. The corner locks easily snap into place, and the truck can drive away instantly. This creates an incredibly fast, completely seamless transition from the deep ocean water. It moves straight from the rolling ship directly to the fast highway road smoothly. The exact same logical rule applies perfectly to heavy freight trains moving across land. Train cars are very long, narrow rectangles running on straight, parallel metal-steel tracks. A square shipping container fits absolutely perfectly onto a flat metal train car bed. In fact, modern trains can even stack two square containers on top of each other. This amazing trick is called double stacking, and it moves twice as much cargo very cheaply. You could never securely double-stack round, rolling cylinders on a fast-moving train car. The harsh vibrations of the train track would cause the round shapes to slip off. The square shape ensures absolute, perfect stability, no matter how bumpy the track slowly gets. Beyond daily transport, think about where these heavy containers go when they are stored. They travel directly to massive, sprawling storage yards near the busy port city docks. These large yards are basically giant parking lots designed specifically for heavy metal boxes. Empty space is extremely expensive in busy port cities like Los Angeles or Shanghai. The busy ports need to fit as many containers as physically possible into the yards. Because the heavy containers are perfectly square, they can be parked right against each other. Workers quickly create tight, perfectly straight rows of boxes with only inches between them. If the massive containers were round, there would be huge gaps between the long rows. The busy port would need twice as much expensive land to store everything completely safely. Now let us carefully look deeply inside the container to see the cargo itself. What exactly is packed securely inside these massive heavy steel boxes every single day? Almost everything we normally buy comes in smaller cardboard boxes sitting on wooden pallets. Cardboard boxes are universally square or completely rectangular to protect the valuable products inside them. Wooden pallets are flat, square wooden platforms used to lift the cardboard boxes easily everywhere. So, you have square cardboard boxes neatly stacked on top of square wooden pallets. It only makes perfect logical sense to put them safely inside a giant square box. A perfect square inside a larger square means every single inch is used completely perfectly. If you tried to slide square wooden pallets into a round circular metal shipping container, you would immediately hit the curving round metal walls on the left and right sides. The sharp, square corners of the pallets would scratch heavily against the round metal walls. You would leave massive, completely empty spaces along the entire curved side of the wall. You would only be able to pack a few pallets directly in the middle easily. This internal geometry problem makes round shapes absolutely terrible for shipping square-boxed goods completely. The straight, flat walls of a square container align perfectly with the square cargo pallets. This perfect alignment means workers can slide a pallet right up against the steel wall. They can pack the container so incredibly tightly that nothing shifts during the entire trip. This tight, secure packing is crucial to prevent the valuable fragile products from breaking apart. If things are loose inside the metal box, they will crash during a bad ocean storm. The square shape smoothly locks the internal cargo securely in place like a giant puzzle piece. It is the absolute ultimate shape for protecting fragile consumer goods on a very bumpy ride. But you might be quietly wondering to yourself, are there ever any exceptions to this rule? What if you actually need to urgently ship a liquid, like cooking oil or dangerous chemicals? Liquids definitely do not come in square cardboard boxes. They desperately need to be held in tanks. A flat, square tank is actually very bad for carrying heavy, sloshing liquid cargo across oceans. When heavy liquid sloshes around, it pushes very violently hard against flat walls and sharp corners. A square metal tank full of moving liquid can easily crack and break at the sharp corners. For shipping liquids safely, a round cylindrical shape is actually scientifically much stronger and completely safer. A round circular tank naturally handles the dangerous sloshing pressure of moving liquids very well indeed. So, if round is truly better for liquids, how do they actually ship them globally today? Do they simply load loose, round cylindrical tanks directly onto the massive cargo shipping container ships? Absolutely not, because that would completely break the entire square operating system of the modern port. Clever engineers permanently solved this specific problem with a very brilliant and simple design trick today. They expertly build a perfectly round cylindrical metal tank to hold the liquid cargo completely safely. But then, they build a perfectly square, highly strong metal frame entirely around the round tank. The round liquid tank sits permanently locked inside this heavy, square steel cage structure forever securely. This wonderful hybrid invention is called a tank container, and it is a masterpiece of logistics logic. The heavy liquid stays safe inside the strong, pressure-resistant, round inner cylinder walls very tightly and securely, but the giant cranes, massive ships and flat trucks only interact with the square outer metal frame. This brilliant tank design proves exactly just how incredibly important the square shape is to the entire world. Even when a completely round shape is naturally much better for the actual cargo hidden inside it, stubborn humans will literally build a rigid square box completely around it just to make it fit properly. Because the entire global supply chain is completely addicted to the easy, simple square shape perfectly. Every single piece of global transport infrastructure is perfectly measured against this exact rectangular metal box standard. It is a universal language of global trade that every single country completely understands and uses daily. When Malcolm McLean first originally invented the metal box, he made sure the physical sizes were completely standard. Today, standard shipping containers usually come in two main common lengths, 20 feet and exactly 40 feet long. They are all exactly 8 feet wide perfectly, giving them a perfect, reliable rectangular footprint on the ground. This extreme, rigid global standardization means a metal box securely packed in a small, quiet town in China can be easily picked up by a local flatbed truck, safely placed onto a massive ocean cargo ship. Sailed across the vast ocean, gently dropped onto an American train, and delivered perfectly safely to a store. No human worker ever has to randomly open the heavy box to see what shape is actually inside. They never have to nervously worry if the strange shape will easily fit on the next transport vehicle. They always know with absolute 100% certainty that the square box will definitely fit perfectly everywhere. This works perfectly because every single modern vehicle in the transport chain is built to accept that exact rectangle. If a crazy transport company suddenly decided to introduce a brand new, completely round cargo shipping container today, it would be completely and instantly rejected by every single busy port and flat truck on planet Earth. A confused harbor crane operator would not have the right metal tools to lift it safely into the air. The busy ship captain could absolutely not stack it safely in the carefully planned, highly structured vertical columns. The worried transport truck driver would strongly refuse to carry it because it might dangerously roll away quickly. The square cargo container is so incredibly deeply embedded in our daily modern world that it is entirely permanent. Experts estimate that well over 90% of all global non-bulk cargo safely moves in these square boxes today. They efficiently carry billions of heavy tons of fresh food, shiny electronics, and important medicine every single passing year. And the incredibly simple, completely straight-edged logic of the mechanical design is exactly what makes all of this possible. The square shape purely represents logical order, maximum space efficiency, and absolute mathematical perfection in a very messy system. It beautifully turned the slow, messy, extremely chaotic world of ancient wooden shipping into a perfectly smooth, modern machine. Think deeply about the massive, incredible difference this single geometric shape made to all of our modern daily lives. Because global shipping became so incredibly fast and unbelievably cheap with the invention of these square metal cargo boxes. Massive companies could manufacture consumer products on the exact opposite side of the planet very affordably for normal people. You can easily buy a beautiful television made in distant Asia for a remarkably low price today. This is because the transport cost to ship that television across the ocean is incredibly tiny. It literally only costs a few pennies because it fits tightly inside a square box. If we humans were still using old wooden barrels and loose bags to slowly ship goods, that exact same television would incredibly cost you thousands of extra dollars to buy today. The entire global economy totally depends on the cheap, reliable movement of these square containers. So, the next time you are driving your car on the highway near an ocean port, and you see a large transport truck carrying a boring, dirty metal box on its back, do not just ignore it as a simple, highly boring piece of old industrial transport equipment. Look closely at its hard, incredibly straight metal edges and thick, heavy steel corner casting locks. Carefully recognize in your mind that you are looking at one of the greatest mechanical inventions. The simple, square shipping container is actually the invisible, highly powerful backbone of modern human civilization. It is the exact reason why your local grocery store always has highly fresh food available. It is the powerful reason why you can order items online and predictably get them fast. It is the ultimate triumph of pure, perfect mathematical logic, completely destroying the messy forces of nature.